What is going on, Secondhand Talent family? If the room looks a little different, that's because it is. We are officially in our new studio. Thank you to Luke Chu for our toy of the season, the Lo-Fi. Thank you to Tenacious Toys for sponsoring the lovely desk candy. Don't worry about Tiny Steiner. He's over there. And if I look off that way for some reason, it's because the monitor is over there, and I apologize. But let's get right the fuck to it. We have with us all the way down from celestial orbit, the Moon City Masters, Jordan and Talor. Folks, welcome to the show, and thank you for traveling all this distance.
We're pretty tired, but we're happy to be here.
Yeah, sleepy. Moon lag is a real thing.
Moon lag is a real thing.
You know,
We didn't just make that up. Coffee helps.
Coffee helps. Lock cologne.
I feel like not enough people have been talking about moon lag, and I'm glad that we're starting that conversation. But to start this conversation, just so our viewers, listeners, and readers know, Jordan and Talor and I are cousins. The way that we met is extraordinary, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. They're both also phenomenally talented musicians and go under the name of the Moon City Masters. And I just absolutely, of course, love them as people, but love the music that they make. And I highly suggest you all check it out. All those links will be in the comments and description below. But first, Jordan, Talor, it's a little bit different knowing that, we're family. When I told you guys that I was starting this show and it was going to be called Secondhand Talent, I've been dying to ask you guys this question. What did you think Secondhand Talent meant when you first heard it?
You know what? Right now, I was actually trying to think, what do I think of Secondhand Talent? I think of like an island of misfit toys, but of like talented people, like people that are like almost like that are like that have followings, or just people like on the edges of the mainstream. We're way out of the edge. We're far away.
We're not really on the edges. We'd love to get to the edges.
Yeah, we're nibbling around though. Yeah. The edge of the edge.
Like maybe today is fourth hand talent or something.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think of, I guess, of that. But honestly, it's kind of like Moon City Masters. It just has to names, to me, like you have to have an intention of what you're trying to do, and then a name just has to not absolutely suck
and legally be able to be yours
yours, and then you can kind of make it whatever you want it to be. Moon City Masters,
it's very deep. It definitely didn't come from our older brother, his other cousin Adam, doing a shit ton of dabs and just being like, you guys are the Moon City Masters.
Like, what's that? And he goes, you guys are twins that shred. You go play a club and people see up next Moon City Masters, and they see these twins on stage. They'll stick around and watch you guys because you're these twins called the Moon City Masters. They'll think it's funny, and they go, oh, wait, they're actually pretty good.
Keeping it real, going back to Secondhand Talent,
but the name's a name.
Maybe this says a lot about me. I did not know what it meant. And I think I asked you at one point, but I don't remember.
Well, what did you think it could have meant?
I mainly just thought it was a good name.
It just sounded good. It's like, it's like people's names. Why does someone name their child Mark? They like the name. It's like, it's just a name. As long as it sounds good, it's like, that's call it. I don't really.
Sentimentality will only get you so far. Like if I had like a dearly beloved like uncle named Shloimi, I'm not naming my fucking kid Shloimi. Like it's not happening.
That's a sink or swim name.
You're right. It is a sink or swim.
That's also very true.
Shloimi better have some edge. Or it's not going to be easy.
I'm paraphrasing here, but I saw H. John Benjamin live once, and he said, at Shuba's like 15 years ago, and one of the jokes that I remember very clearly, he was like, and just a piece of advice to you folks out there, if you're Jewish, please don't name your kid Judah. He's just going to be in for a world of hurt growing up. And this was 15 years ago, but I just thought that was hilarious. And you're right, and I do really appreciate you saying that about the name, because I'm first of all, I love the name Moon City Masters. and I really appreciate, hearing, uh, the story behind it, allegedly, and also
It's
you're,
legal, so it happened.
yeah, and names have power, and names have intention, and whether it's a fun story or in our case, secondhand talent being, the no less talented, but often overlooked when it comes to the general consumption of media, and it's really important, I think, that, that we highlight, all of the folks who work so hard to make sure that everybody has a good time, and folks like yourselves who are, doing the thing and really trying to get your name out there and do the most and making good music and sticking with it and touring and doing the absolute most to get through it and really aspiring to that name of that master level. So I really do appreciate you saying that, because a lot of thought did go into the name, and I love it. Yeah.
I love the name too, and also I got to rewind a whole back because you said you love us. We love you too,
We love
and
you
we're
too.
very proud of you. Very happy to see what you've done with the show.
In building this up, it's like building up our band. It's not easy, but you just got to be genuinely excited and love it, and you just gotta love this and remember to have fun because people can feel if you're fun and and they could feel it off of you. It's like any type of performance art, any entertainment, just it can be really hard trying to make what you love to do into a profession, and you just gotta just remember to have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
mean, it is, and if your heart and soul isn't in it, it really does show. I've been to concerts where I've seen I don't need to name any names, but I've seen bands that were just totally checked out, and they were just playing the gig because it was the gig, and
Yeah.
the music suffered for it. But then just recently, actually, I saw Dweezil Zappa play, and you can hear in his show the intention that he puts into his music. I remember during the Q&A somebody asked, like, you guys gig every night, do you still have to practice? And everybody else in the session and the band, like, I kind of started laughing, and he was like, yeah, Frank, we're really complicated music, and you guys will appreciate this. He came out in the second set and said, I was really inspired by Eddie Van Halen, and not my dad, actually. Van Halen was the first guitarist that I saw that I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah,
And
he Eddie Van Halen gave him a guitar.
He
and
makes
he
videos like doing
and
it, teaching
he
Van Halen like licks and shit too.
so he actually played that guitar at the show. He
Oh,
also played one of his dad's guitars, and from the album cover of Shut Up and Play Your Music. And on top of that, he took a break to say, you know, in my opinion and Eddie's, the toughest, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, the toughest guitar solo, according to Eddie, that he ever wrote was a song that the band never played live, Push Come to Shove.
the
And
toughest solo.
and
What's
they
that
played
solo?
it. And they played it. And Dweezil knocked it out of the motherfucking park. I mean, it was just sublime, and you can really tell that his entire heart and soul is in that music that he's playing. And that leads me to my next question for you guys, which is, where did I mean, music runs in our family. um I'm just kind of curious, and I'm sure our readers and listeners and viewers would love to know, where did you guys get your footing? How did it start out playing, or where did your music sensibilities come from? How'd that go?
Well, I have one thing I need to say. Going back to Dweezil. I know one of my best friends, Audrey, is really good friends with the Zach Tabori from Dweezil's band.
Oh, which
Uh,
instrument?
he plays guitar. He's like the guy with the long.
Oh, he's the
Yeah,
multi-instrumentalist.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God.
And
Punky.
and
Punky.
so I got to give a shout out to Zach because
Yes. Yes,
he
you
is the
do.
biggest Zappa fan I've ever met. Like, and there is no one better for that gig, and I have to give a shout out to him. And like being, and that I'm very happy for him and proud of him that he has that gig. And he writes sick music. Everybody should actually check out his music too.
I just want to say this on that note. First of all, the fact that he got them to bring back Punky's Whips is one of my favorite. They brought it back for him, and he played Bozio's part, and it was Punky, Punky. It was incredible. I will also say, without hesitation or reservation, for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows that I've been to or been a part of in my life, that was the most talented band I've ever seen on stage, ever.
Dude, I saw it completely
Hands down.
different when he was Zappa Play Zappa opened for Dream Theater years ago, and like with all due respect, like Dream Theater was great, but Zappa still Play Zappa. It stole the show. It was freaking amazing. So anyway,
that music. Props to Dweezil Zappa. He's such a great guitar player, and that's music you can't phone it in. You can't phone it, and it's you can't.
Well, you look at folks like from the original Mothers, like Ruth Underwood, right? And when you look at any interview with Ruth, she'll play a section, like she'll play the bridge from St. Alfonso's, and as soon as she's done playing with it, she goes, "There were 3 mistakes. Frank never would have settled for that." And like the rigor and musicianship that he held, it was just second to none. The discipline that he put into his craft.
He was a compositional genius.
Yeah, he was.
He was, and he got only the best players to interpret what he was thinking.
So getting back to the question, as you were saying, where did your musical sensibilities come from when you were coming up?
Or do you want to start that, or you know what? I would say that music was just always presented as something that was very important in our house. Our dad had some experience like singing in bands a little bit, but he just grew up in New York City and was in New York City at the time where
British invasion.
Yeah, British invasion. Like these rock stars were just there, and like he saw Zeppelin perform for the first time in the States. He would just see like Jim Morrison and Mick Jagger walking around New York City. He was in that music scene, and this music was very important to him. It was very, very important to him. And he'd be like blasting the Stones and the Beatles in the car, and he'd like turn around and be like, "Do you like it?" And then just be like, "Sing, sing," like he'd really like he'd make you sing, like he'd like not like make he'd really encourage you. You sing. If you like it, sing.
So I think the first music we liked was the stuff because he went to Woodstock and he went to. He was just in that. So a lot of that, like Hendrix and like the Allman Brothers, Beatles, all that stuff. And then when we were, but we like Hendrix a little bit later on, and then when we were kids, you remember like wrestling, like WCW, like was huge, and Hulk Hogan was a bad guy, and his entrance,
Better believe it, brother.
His entrance music was Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, and we thought that was such a cool song. And Adam just goes, "That's Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix." Like, what's that? And he makes us both a mix CD with Jimi Hendrix and like Van Halen and Ozzy Osbourne and Eric Clapton. And that instantly got us like Guns N'
Roses too. Yeah.
That instantly got us obsessed with music. It was just classic rock.
Well, we already loved music, but that was like the next step. It was like
daydreaming about music.
Yeah, that was like the next. Music was already something that we were like. The fact that we were paying attention to the theme music was like, music was always presented to us as something very important. It wasn't just something that you passively like. It was something that it was like music was like a real higher form of art in our house. And then Adam gave us that mix CD that had all like, Running with the Devil, Voodoo Child, and it was like, oh shit, like this is it. And we became obsessed with it.
I just gotta say, it's so interesting hearing that it came from your dad, because my musical sensibilities came from my dad, and the bands actually aren't that far off. I mean, one of his favorite bands of all time is the Bee Gees, and from
Oh,
a, and he can tell you not just when every song in the 70s was first played on the radio, but where he was when he heard, like Rockin' in the Free World for the first time, or, he that kind of music lover. And he used to take us out, you know, singing, it was a little bit different, like he tried to get us to engage in singing a little bit more with like from the religious perspective. But at the same time, in the Chicago suburbs, there in the 90s, there used to be these amazing, free concerts in the park. And, I got to go see like Blue Oyster Cult and Rare Earth and Three Dog Night. And the one that I'll never forget though, went to go see Jim Peterick. And I was about 10 years old. And Jim Peterick, for those who don't know, was a founding member and lead singer of 38 Special and a band called Survivor.
Oh
And
yeah.
watching this man play Hold On Loosely and then Don't Stop Believin', I felt like I was transported to another dimension. And you know, my brother Ben, friend of the show, shout out Boone and Keel. He picked up my dad's acoustic, and I always had fumble fingers. But yeah, growing up, my dad took us to shows, and I am eternally grateful for that.
That was our dad took us, like our other older brother Zach was a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, and our first concert was them on the By the Way tour. It was Queens of the Stone Age opening, and that was our first concert. And seeing live music was like the tipping point of us wanting to wanting to play music. Like we loved it, but the thought of like, I would daydream of performing, but it's like that was like the push, like, oh, I wanted it. Made seeing it in person like was mind blowing, and it also made it seem more like tangible that, oh, you can
Yeah,
do
you
that.
can
You can
actually
you can
do
try to
this.
do this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
and as much as we highlight on the show that playing an instrument is not a barrier for entry to being a part of the live music scene, it's amazing. Those moments of inspiration are so fundamental, and that's why it's worth highlighting everybody, because without everybody working together to make shows like that happen, that transformative experience may not have occurred. And who knows? So really just fucking awesome on all counts.
Yeah, music, musicians don't love music more than non-musicians. We all love it. That's
Yeah.
art, some people, it's like making filmmakers to just people that love watching movies. It's just either you get the idea that you should go try to do that, or you don't, but you still love it and connect to it.
Yeah.
It's
So
not.
don't be a music snob.
Yeah, like
Everybody loves music.
everyone loves music, and it means
Yeah.
to everyone. I guess, like, a chef is going to understand how to make that dish better than the foodie that likes eating it, but it's just a different perspective. Like, this is like, we all relate to that. Like, we all relate to music the same way, musician or not. And I think the biggest thing as a musician, and as we got deeper into more technical and more just deeper music that isn't as pop format, like progressive rock and like font and like fusion music and jam band music. You got to remember, this is still entertainment. This is all about connecting.
Yeah.
This isn't about being a musician with your head up your butt, and just even when you're playing more technical music, this is about connecting with people.
Yeah, I'm not going to name a band, but the band, but I was on the same festival with them with another act that I play with. I'm not going to say the act because that will give it away. Um, and they play very technical music, and it's very nice, but they did not look at each other or at the audience and did not look like they were having fun, and it sucked. They sounded fine, but you're still an entertainer. You still gotta be like engaging with the audience, like in that moment with the people there.
So the distinction I make there is there's progressive rock, and then there's what I call, which is what you described, I call that math rock, where it's so overly complicated that there's just no, you have to focus on every single note, every single switch. I highly recommend, folks, if you haven't watched it already, check out our season episode 5 of this season with Tori Smith, the CMO of Black Box. He created a prompter that's shaped like a wedge monitor to avoid physical interface between the artist and the audience.
Oh,
So it's
cool.
on the stage as a wedge monitor, and use the code Secondhand Talent, get 10% off. And you can see lyrics, sheet music in up to 12 font sizes. You can load it with a USB stick. It comes with a keyboard. It has Wi-Fi. It has Bluetooth, and you can sync them across the stage for transpositions and chord changes. So yeah, that being interactive with the audience is so key, which is why I love the Black Box so much. But I do want to get back to a little bit earlier, so when you realize, kind of had this moment at this Chili Peppers concert, um, what was the first step that y'all took to actually start manifesting this idea of, hey, maybe this is something we could do?
I asked
Dad, will you get us a guitar?
I know. I asked my dad for a guitar, and they're like, hey, Taylor's gonna get a guitar. Jordan's like, yeah, I want to do that too. and then a few months later, Jordan realized what he actually wanted was a bass. He just didn't know that what Flea was playing was a bass.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this is a lot more, because Flea was the one that like really.
I was attracted to what John Frusciante was doing, and he was into Flea, and it was.
And I took much better with the bass than the guitar.
But they signed us up for some private lessons. Instantly, they put a book of sheet music in front of us, and instantly we quit. And we just started dicking around and noodling and learning by ear for the first couple of years. And then once we got, and structure was never our thing. And then when we got a little bit like into our early teenage years, we got good, but then we went to a jam. We were getting good, and then we went to a jam session at Berklee College of Music, and we realized we weren't as good as we thought we were, and we gotta start learning about if we actually want to do that. We were like 14, we played CBGBs with like our bus driver.
So that we like so
we thought we were the shit.
Yeah, so
you guys played at CBGBs?
Yeah, 14 with our bus driver.
Yeah, we went out on a school night and did that.
With our,
we thought like we were probably about to get famous.
Yeah, like we thought we were on the verge. 14, playing with our school bus driver.
He could play really fast.
I could play. I could do the flip.
He has a flying V.
I had a flying V.
I just time out. I didn't realize I glossed over in my head the fact that you said you were actually performing with the school bus driver. Okay, that is hilarious that he recruited you.
His wife was the singer too,
and his name was Ray, and his band was called Ray's Hell.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let the silence linger after that pun, because
I first thought I lost you, like the connection was, and then I realized you were just taking that in. And it's like you're just taking that in.
Wanted to register the disappointment.
You're just like smelling it.
All love to now Ray is Rachel, so all love to Rachel.
Thank you for giving these two hyper kids an opportunity,
and like all of this music that we loved. Like Rachel
showed us so much music.
Rachel would just like show up. And like whenever Rachel was driving the bus for us, because Rachel wasn't like our consistent bus driver.
Was the substitute bus driver.
Yeah, so Rachel would be like, "Oh, I'm picking up those kids today," and would like have a bag of like CDs that she burnt for us.
And that was how we got into like heavy metal and some more like deeper players, and it was huge,
freaking huge. It was like really what got us out from like liking just what our dad and our older brother liked, and like just and like kind of going on like, well, it's what awoken like the metal era of our taste, like Iron Maiden, UFO, like classic metal, Judas Priest,
and
Gary Moore,
Michael Schenker, and then also at around that time we were getting into Rush. We loved Rush.
Yeah.
And then we had a friend from Israel named Ordidi, who was 90%. We played with him when we were 13. All these teenage Israeli musicians came to America, and we played a show with them. And Or was 90% blind, but could play guitar, bass, and keyboards all exceptionally well. He was a few years older than us. And he started showing us a lot of music.
Yeah.
He showed us a lot of like jazz and fusion music, like Pat Metheny and all like, you know, Dream Theater. We had like, you know,
this is literally the blind leading the blind. I mean, this is
Al Di Meola.
I need to rewind a little bit. The reason why when you mention Orr's name, because you might catch it later, like I laugh immediately when I hear Orr's name, is because I just think about when I first met this guy, and I'm like 13, you were 13, and I have a Mike Dirnt Fender P bass.
And we remember Green Day.
Yeah, I just liked it. I just liked this bass. I never, like, not that I ever disliked Green Day, but I didn't even know it was the Green Day guy's bass. And I worked very hard bullshitting my bar mitzvah to pay for this bass, you know? Like,
gotta work hard at that Haftorah phonetically.
Yeah. That Haftorah
phonetically.
Anyway.
I still remember Shoftim V'Shotrim.
You grew up another level.
Listen,
you grew up we were posers.
Yeah, we're posers. you know, like
Steinberg is the most Jewish thing about us.
It's doing all the heavy lifting. Listen, I consider I'm culturally Jewish. Like,
well, I am culturally New York Jewish. Bagels, Seinfeld.
This is why we call it Jewish.
Jewish. But anyway. So when I think of the first time we met Or, I have like my prized Mexican tea bass that I spent my hard-earned bar mitzvah money on, $650. That's right.
Hardcore.
And I'm just like playing it. I'm playing bullshit. I'm slapping as fast as I can. And this guy, this dude that looks like he's like a mad scientist, because that's what Or.
Because he had crazy frizzy long hair, and he had these glasses, but his eyes, like, you know, before you know he's blind, you just think he's stoned or something.
Yeah, and he's like, he just comes over, puts his hands like this on his ears, like his fingers like this, and bites the headstock of my bass. And I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? And he's just like, you can hear it much better. I'm like,
because it was unplugged.
And we're like, okay. And then he's like, try. I'm like, I handed him I think I handed him the bass or something.
And he plays it. He's insane.
And I'm like, what? Okay, this guy's better. And then I'm like, he looks like he's better than me. And then I bite the headstock. I'm like, he is better than me.
He was better at Jordan at bass, better than me at guitar. And then he was better than everyone at everything.
And then he had an existential crisis going on because he was slightly better at keyboards than he was at guitar. And obviously that's a catastrophe, you know, because he loves the guitar more.
He had the worst problems.
It's horrible. It's so horrible that he's even better.
He was so talented, he didn't know where to put his focus because he was just too talented.
He's now like a virtuosic, like
prog metal bass player.
Death metal bass player. Like in like a band, it's called Stardust. They're like an Israeli like death metal.
So when he was, but then so when we met him, he had a band, and then we hit it off and we stayed in touch, and he stayed with us for a month the next summer, and we were 14, he was 17, and he was an incredibly great jazz guitar player too, and everything.
Oh yeah, by that time he'd become fully like jazz guitar player meets like Tommy Emmanuel, like,
and he just introduced us to, he just downloaded all his albums and put it on our computer, and it was everything from like Joni Mitchell to Pat Metheny to like
Borelli the Grand.
Borelli the Grand.
It was like everything.
Brad Meldau. It was like everything,
yeah.
And it just got Scott Henderson, and so and we were already curious about more technical music. We love bands like Rush, and it was just like next. And then we had a couple of years where we were kind of fluctuating between like being progressive metal nerds and like jazz fusion nerds.
You know, actually looking back on this though, now that he's in a metal band, one thing that I often like forget about is that like that summer, because he's just like he was the kind of kid that like he just wanted to play everything. And he didn't want to not be great at everything because he loved everything. So upon like coming back and he's opening up our whole world to like all this jazz music
and we went to the jam at Berklee College of Music with him, and he could keep up with the 20-year-olds, and we were like, wow, we're not that good.
Yeah, and he was like, but at the same time, he was like having like this like I've lost my metal roots
because I could like play like shred like fast scale runs better than him. It was the only thing I could do. He could do everything so much better than me on guitar.
That, like actually get you work and like get you like that,
I could go like,
but he was like, you know, in his mind, he's lost his like Michelangelo body of speed kill shots, which he hadn't.
He hadn't. He was as good as he's always been.
He was just like, I think he just like felt like he had neglected that side of himself.
Because he was,
and because he came back and his friends were like 15, and
he's
like, yeah, man.
He's literally 17 years old, and after he left us, he was going to go play music festivals in Europe with this jazz piano player, and he was better than her at piano too.
Yeah,
like
he was. And like so I kind of think back on like maybe that had something to do with the fact that he ended up being a metal bass player after all these years.
Because I still need to rock, you know. Like I'm losing my rock and roll. He was just, but he opened our world, and because that time with him, we're like, wow, we actually can't just like be self-taught. We have to go take lessons. And I did take some lessons with him, really, because we also loved funk music, and we both had teachers that would show us like basic like funk fundamentals on guitar and bass.
Yeah.
So and
it's just all like the slapping and dead notey and all like Rocco, Power, Jocko.
So after that summer, we went and took jazz guitar lessons. We never got good at playing straight ahead jazz, but it was like, hey, we got to learn how to read music. We got to learn music theory. Like you got to learn the language.
Like a little bit.
Yeah. And it was just it was like so that really got us in that more like. We just love improvising, you know, but we also during high school discovered our love for singing. So it's always kind of trying to balance like the improvising and the jamming, but also I think the love for singing also kind of kept us more rooted. It's still about songs and connecting with people because so many great players, they're like really schooled and like they get kind of in an echo chamber and they forget that there's like that you need to like still engage with an audience and connect together in that way. It's not just connecting with the musicians, it's connecting with the crowd.
Or like for us, like there's nothing wrong if you're into that more niche style of things. Like we just kind of always, it was always a balance of like we really admired like the musicians and admire that scene, but we also love to be singers and love to be entertainers. And
but on that note, I was just saying, on that note, though, I had a frizzy-haired mentor as well, actually in college. Shout out to Knut Horowitz and everything.
He's the one who got me to be able to refine this, so it sounds kind of realistic.
He was.
I forgot how good at imitation.
Do you guys remember the old State Farm commercials where it'd be like, "It's not rocket science," and the crazy orange hair?
No.
Well, he was my professor one year and taught me everything that I know about stand-up, about voice acting, and he said something similar to me, which you mentioned, which I just kind of want to touch on. That I feel like that's the highest order of compliment you can get from a mentor is that, oh my God, like you got so good. I feel like I've lost touch with what I felt I was so good at. Like that's top of the pops right there.
Yeah. That is a huge compliment. You know, we thought that is a huge compliment.
Yeah.
I'm like processing that right now. It's like I guess it is, but you know what it is when you're like so young, someone like when you're like how like someone that's only a little bit older could seem so much more down the road than they are to you when you're super young. So it's like, wait, Oro's still a kid.
Yeah.
And had his own like he was still figuring himself out. So it just like it was like, but he knew he was in the middle of a change, and then but us being where he was, like he's like, oh wait, am I going too far from what this was really about to me? And I think as an artist, it's kind of like that. Always, it's like other people can trigger your insecurity of like going different directions, and like you feel like you got to hold on to something and not just embrace where you want to go.
Yeah.
So one thing that really struck me that you spoke about was how your friend came back and was that impressed by your growth in music. You know, on this show, we often, rather, one of the core messages of the show is that the love of the music came from the generation above us, and we, the three of us, spoke about that just now. You know, with about our respective dads and getting that love from him, but it occurred to me while you were speaking, you know, I typically think of the term generational in decades or in like millennial or Gen Z or Gen X or you know, all these different categories for defined on the years people were born. But, you know, the age range you gave, you know, I'm a high school teacher and it's, or I was a high school teacher. And the difference between a freshman and a sophomore and a junior and a senior year over year is exponentially different. And that is a generational gap. That is passing down the love from one generation to the next, because I remember being a freshman in high school and looking up at the seniors and being like, "Oh my God, like these are the people who have been there, done that, all that." So for someone who influenced you that much to come back and put out that feeling of like, wow, like I feel like I've lost something because of how good you've gotten, I feel like is kind of the highest order of compliment that you it's like when somebody messaged me about my interview with Joe Marcinek and said I went to check out his music and bought a record. You know, like that's the highest order of compliment I feel like I could get. I mean, how did that feel? So, I mean, looking back on it now, like,
Well, looking back at it now, it's like, you know, we learn from like parents or adults. We also, like, when you're a younger sibling, you learn from your younger sibling, your older siblings a lot. And Or was at the age where he could have been like our oldest. We were the age apart, like almost like our oldest brother Adam, like almost 4 years apart, 3 years, 4 years apart. And or he was still a kid, and the fact that he could actually be humble enough to outwardly say he was impressed and show that from these, he actually was able, because we didn't think about the age difference with him, and vice versa. It didn't feel like it. He would talk, he would show us stuff, and
He knew he was like a mentor.
he did, but he didn't talk down to us.
Yeah.
So I always appreciate like that looking back, like him as talented as he was, and he was insecure too, like every kid, like every artist, you know, but like him actually being like, you're really, I think you're better than me at this. And that triggers me. I'm like, it's silly, but it's also like kind of cool that he could just say it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it wasn't like in a way where he wasn't like happy for us either. But you know, at the same time, like, you know, he also changed a lot in the time that we saw him. That sort of, when you're that young, when you're a kid, basically, like the growth that you make is just like, I think you said this like off while we weren't recording. It's like, or Taylor said this, like 1 year is like 4 years.
So yeah,
when you're a kid, you know, the amount of, maybe it's that you don't have a real job that you have to do. I don't know, but some kids like actually took school seriously.
I just think
unlike
so
us.
much stuff happens when you're, you know, they have the time moves slower when you're a kid because there's just so much happening. And when you're an adult, things are a little bit more mundane. So like, you know, it's a little bit like every day is kind of the same. So it kind of, that goes by fast. Well, it can happen. And well, it's like, that's why whenever we're on tour, it feels like a lifetime, because like when we're on tour for like a month or 3 weeks, you know, because it is kind of the same thing every day, but every day it's not exactly the same, you know, and I lost the I'm losing, but it's like there's just so much because we met him a year before that. He came back a year after, and it was amazing the growth he made. And but
I think it's just when you're a kid, you can just your ability to learn and just be a sponge is just maybe a little bit better. I don't know if it's just because the age you're at biologically, like what is going on, or if it's just that period of your life you have less responsibilities, so you can just put more into your craft. You know,
So
I don't know.
So I think it's really interesting you brought that up. As you guys know, but our readers and listeners and viewers may not know, I just put my brother Ben with Boone and Keel on tour in May, and was watching. You know, and first of all, there is no hell like being a tour manager who's not on the road. Um, not fun. But I also was able to watch them get exponentially better with every show, take advice, learn to grow. And it, you know, as I'm listening, you know, we don't need to share, you know, your family details, but you did mention that you're the youngest and you got a lot of the sensibilities from your older siblings. And it's really, really funny if you stack our two families together because we go the exact opposite direction.
yeah, you're
I'm
the
the
oldest sibling.
oldest of six, and you know, Ben and Mayor really took to playing every instrument we had, and it didn't translate upwards, and therefore I became a comedian out of spite.
Well, our older brother loves music and he's talented at it,
He sings
Adam,
all the time.
and he can sing really well. But and he showed us Frank Zappa. Like he loved a lot of different music. He has big ears, you know, like as a listener. And but he never thought about playing until like way later on. He started teaching himself piano a little bit and how to sing. But that was not his. He didn't. It was our old Zach, the second oldest, played a little, and then we got into it, and we were the ones that got the most into it. But I think it's I think because he's the one when you're the older sibling, you're finding it yourself for the most part, and you're showing it to them, and they're just interpreting it the way, and like they'll just interpret it and feel it a different way, but they're getting it from you.
I mean, that's a really good point, and I would definitely like to think and
Because you found your shit through what friends like what how does the oldest sibling find their like the things they're into? Yeah,
great.
this is pre-social. This is pre-social media, too, because that didn't happen until we were early teens. You know,
So, two ways. Actually, I don't think I've been asked that question before. So the first concert I ever went to was the Vines in 2003 or 2004. I bribed the guy to let me in because I loved the album, the one that Get Free was on that came out at that time. And my second experience at a concert outside of the ones my dad's took me to, I crashed Lollapalooza and got to see Ween and Lou Reed and like all these, you know, incredible bands. And then, oh, so, you know, I got a lot from my dad. I got a lot from my mom. From my dad, I got, you know, what I mentioned, Three Dog Night, all the classic rock, Three Dog Night, Bee Gees, Rare Earth, Bachman Turner Overdrive, Steely. He's not a big Steely Dan guy, but that's how I learned about it. And then from my mom, actually, and my uncle, shout out Uncle Sam, drummer in the band Lonely Moans, our theme song. So got a lot of, he was on Sub Pop. He knew all the guys and like Dinosaur Jr. and Nirvana and like all that. So we got introduced to grunge from my uncle. And that's where Benjamin really picked up the sticks for the first time. And my mom, you know, that's where I got Zappa. But I stumbled upon Weird Al. I stumbled upon Running with Bad Hair Day, I think, and then the Food album, and then Jurassic Park, and then finally Running with Scissors. That was one of the most formative albums in my life. That completely I had this moment where I realized music can be funny. And I knew Zappa, but I didn't really know Zappa that much. But I that's what really turned me on to all of the music that I know is Weird Al. I would listen to Weird Al, and that I loved it so much that I would go listen to the original songs, and then I would say, "Wait a minute, Dire Straits is actually pretty fucking cool." Um,
What was this
uh,
Dire Straits song again?
I didn't know what was this Dire Straits cover.
he
Which
did
one did you?
he did the Beverly Hillbillies theme to Money for Nothing,
That's incredible.
and then hearing the polkas, and I hip hop was my other genre that I loved, and hearing him play accordion to Eminem and pull it off. I mean, to me, it was just spectacular, and that really broadened my horizons. And I do also have to say, the Grateful Dead. That came from my mom, and where Weird Al taught me a lot about current music. Obviously the music that he was parodying. So Weird Al gave me a great sense of current music, but the Grateful Dead opened up the gateway for me to learning about people like Howlin' Wolf, Bill Monroe, Smoke. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Tears for Fears, Warren Zevon. These are all the band, Bob Dylan. These are all bands that the Grateful Dead covered. And as soon as I found out it wasn't a Grateful Dead song, I wanted to immediately learn more about it because that just made me love it so much more. And it's great to see it now. Shout out to Kitchen Dwellers. They reimagined the band's song Get Up Jake in a bluegrass fashion, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Love to see it. And speaking of progression,
Gotta check that out.
when or how did you guys decide to start performing live music without your bus driver?
Oh, he was.
Well, we already decided to do that before then. Our bar mitzvah was our first gig. But no, wasn't our first gig?
No, it was not our first gig. We were huge Cream fans. That was the first like guitar and bass thing because it's like our dad would always show us like he would show us his vinyl collection. We get into the history, who influenced who, but our first gig was we had a few. We took for a month or two. We both took with this guy that played guitar and bass, and he had us sit in with his band on like St. Patrick's Day or something at an Irish pub, and we played White Room by Cream.
Nice.
And that was the first time we ever played live. I don't think we
And
always
like the first time we ever really played with a real drum.
yeah, we always we never didn't do it together. I think we
Phrasing.
I think we talking about playing live.
And we always were going to be in a band. We always tried to write songs,
Yeah, the
write
intention
jams.
was always to play live.
Honestly, being in the band,
that was like the fantasy kind.
We were still writing our own music and trying to start our own band while we were in the band with the bus driver. We didn't write any of the songs in that. We were writing music instantly. We hardly ever would learn songs note for note. We would learn part of it and then we'd kind of just make shit up.
Yeah, and we always wrote our own songs.
Yeah, it was always improvising, like, and just making songs out of improvising. And we always wanted to be in a band, and we always were going to do that. And honestly, I remember being as kids, we just thought that we were like, this is kind of a distraction from what we want to do, but we want to play CBGBs.
Yeah.
You know?
Because in our minds,
Go ahead.
You were making it, you know.
Well, yeah, I would think the same thing. CBGB's me like that. It's an iconic. It's in a Talking Head song. It's an iconic. This ain't no Mug Club. This ain't no CBGBs. You know.
Yeah. But we started we had a metal band that same year with our friend who we decided is going to be the singer because it's before we decided we
didn't want to be the lead singers. We just wanted to be like it's gonna take away from being a guitarist at a band.
We didn't want to sing.
At first I really did want to be a lead singer, you know.
And then you got into the bass.
Yeah, and then I got into playing the bass. And I was like, I don't want to be a lead singer anymore. I just want to be like that guy that stands in the back with my bass and no disrespect to any of the singers that we had in high school, but you inspired us to become the lead singer
because you couldn't sing.
because you couldn't sing. Sorry.
So,
And you had it, and and also you know, anyway.
so
If
yeah,
you can't do it, you do it yourself.
so even that year,
Yeah, that kind of was it.
yeah. So in 8th grade, we had a metal band, and then everyone told us our singer sucked, so we broke up that band.
Sorry.
So
You're watching this.
and he was a great. He was
He's a great guy. He was a really great guy.
and he also moved to another school after. So, and then after that, we had a drummer in Connecticut that we met at guitar camp, and then after 8th summer before 9th grade, the kids from a few times we started a band we had for like 6, 7, 8 months, and we won battle of bands with them. We were always writing music, but that was like the first band where we like really wrote all the songs, and like that was always what we wanted to do. That was always what we did and wanted to do. And even now, like we both like I'm working on music to get paid to play with people, and he plays with people for money, and we just do it to survive. But the real thing we always want to do is it's just to support doing what we want to do, which is writing and playing and performing together.
Yep.
We played probably more together as kids than we played alone.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Definitely by far.
It really reminds me of that iconic Jerry Garcia lyric, don't quit that day job no matter what they say. You don't quit that day job until that night job pays. It really is important. I have to have that same mentality with Secondhand Talent, that like the
and
dream.
I need to have it more.
Yeah, the dream is it'll pay the bills, but like, if you don't put in the work, nobody's going to do it for you. Like if you got like in your case, if you guys don't go out and gig and play, there's nobody who's going to go out and gig and play and cosplay as you. And also like you two are, you have this, and besides being twins, this incredible, unique dynamic of musicianship on stage, which can only come from a lifetime of playing instruments together. So I personally, it really shows, and I've been lucky enough to see you live a couple of times, and it just gets better and better every time.
Oh, we're heading to a whole other level with this new album we recorded, but it's complicated. Like making this your job, it's really complicated because everyone's you got to work hard. You got to work hard. It's like, how do you work hard? How do you know like the distribution of what to put your time into? Obviously, you got to play shows and get good at playing. Obviously, but like there's so much. We're in a different era. It used to be like 30, 20,
Go play.
and people go to bars, people go to clubs to see who's playing. Now you got to make a freaking TikTok that goes viral to make people even want to go to your freaking show, because people don't go to see bands just to see who's playing. You got to convince them to get the hell out of their house and go to a club, because people don't just recreationally go to clubs for the sake of going to clubs anymore at the same level.
You're fighting the bowl and hitting the bowl, laying in bed and watching some shit.
Yeah, or just all this,
or like something else you could do.
Or just so now it's like, because you got to play a lot of shows to get good at playing shows, but like you can't just play show after show after show if you don't have the fan base to support it. It's an interesting time that we're in, and learning how to really be smart with your time is so freaking hard. I feel like we're just getting it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And that time compartmentalization factor is a huge thing, but compounding that, one of the biggest issues that the gig economy or the live music economy is facing right now is just low volume ticket sales, and we're seeing left and right. When Sturgill Simpson came back after being Johnny Blue Skies after his injury, wasn't able to sell out a huge venue, played a smaller venue, packed the shit out of it, and played for 3 hours, and crushed it. And it's really sad to see festivals and concerts and tours getting quashed, not necessarily for the headliner, but those opening acts. For some of them, it's their really big break, and like, saying that you're going on tour with a big band, even if you're the opener for the opener, it's still a huge deal if you're on that bill, and
Yeah.
those opportunities just aren't there anymore.
It's people don't realize because things cost so much now, and it's even since the pandemic. When we first got back to playing shows after the pandemic, we were packing clubs where we play, and it's tough because you don't realize like that whole arena stadium show, and they're like, and the tickets are so expensive there, and it's like it kills it kills the people's budget to go see smaller bands, and
Oh,
you can
no,
only
absolutely.
go to so many shows a year. And to that person that's going to go see Dead and Co at the Sphere and spend like $1,000 to go do it, they're not going to go to the mid-level festival with the next month because that's going to cost money.
It
you know
breaks my heart. It breaks my heart, and it'll already have
and
happened
it's
by
not
the
just Dead
time.
and Co, it's Taylor Swift, it's anything
Well,
Yeah.
sure, but at the same time, just on that point, and this will have happened already by the time this episode airs, but for GD60 at Golden Gate Park, it's sold out. It's a travesty that the ticket. I mean, I think entry, like the 3-day pass, is like $600. It's not even a full festival. It's Dead and Bro and Billy Strings and Trey and Sturgill. I would like to see Billy, Trey, and Sturgill. I mean, that I feel like that's why a lot of people are going. But to me, it's inconceivable and you're right, it does drain the funds, which are getting fewer and further in between, for people to go to smaller shows. And that's a big issue because for smaller size bands, you don't want to charge a $50 cover, because then your direct competition is insane, and you're also freezing out a large portion of your fan base that may not be able to swing that.
It's just like between the ticket, the parking, the booze, the shirt, going to a big like an arena show or a music festival, it's easily $1,000 a head. It can be,
Yeah, yeah, easily.
$500 a person. It depends on what you're doing. It's not even just bands are like the mid-level bands, the club bands, the touring club bands. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And look, this has never been easy. So you do this because you love this, but it's figuring it out.
It's the way the world has changed, and riding that wave and trying to roll with the punches, and it's just they're increasingly mounting up, but we're doing our best to find ways to circumvent it, to keep it going.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
heart pause. Let me hit the record button. I desperately. So take us to the moon. How did we get from wanting to play and learning all of this to 2019, when you released your first official single recorded as the Moon City Masters? I remember hearing it, and my immediate thoughts were like, wow, this is like if somebody had truly immediately carried on the legacy of like Kansas and Boston and Foreigner. Like, that's like really what came into my head. And over time since then, your music has certainly evolved. But I'm really curious as to why 2019, like what was it that inspired the formation of Moon City Masters, and then B, to actually start recording under that name?
Okay, well, a few things, like two different angles. We decided to just be us two as the band because we were sick of having different bands where other people would be involved and we'd have to like
Co-write for the sake of co-writing.
Yeah, we just wanted to write everything together. That's how we've always did everything, and we frankly just wanted to be a co-dictatorship. We didn't want to have to compromise with other people. It wasn't our vision. And why are you going to be broke to not to do art the way you want it? We think that it was always better just to be, we're always on the same page. So let's just be the band. And when we need someone to play with us, we'll just hire them. And honestly, like, I know that sounds a little bit cold, but like, we're always on the same page, and I think that's the most important thing in a band is like there needs to be a cohesive vision.
It
Second,
doesn't. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
No, go
No, no,
go.
no, no.
I was just gonna say that really sounds like Joe Marcinek, who he plays with different musicians everywhere he goes, and he tried to get a tour manager at one point, and the tour manager's like, "Where are you gonna be in February, and who else is gonna be there?" And he was like, "I don't know. Like, I put my bands together based on who's in town. Like, that's why he does everything on his own, is because yeah, he's a singer songwriter at heart, and he has the Joe Marcinek band, but it's a rotating cast. But so I really understand that, especially from a writing perspective.
And
Like,
look, most bands, there's a couple people that are hired guns.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Oteil Burbridge is not making the same money as Bob Weir and Dead & Co. And it's it's just most band, even like smaller bands. It's usually not an equal band. It starts off like that.
Someone's the songwriter. Someone's like, and when you are playing with us, and we don't hire a different person each time, we have like a touring drummer with us. At points we've had a keyboard player too. We want to bring that back at some point. And if you're on stage with us, you're featured in the show. We want to feature the musicians that we have with us. We want it to be a band. We are all up there performing the material together. But when it comes to the studio, it's our vision. The image of the band is us. It's our band. Hall & Oates was them, but except we're a jam. Like
we're Steely Dan.
We're Steely Dan.
That is exactly the
we're
band.
Steely Dan. Like we
That's
want
exactly the band that I was thinking of in
Yeah.
my head as you were saying that, is like what they cared about the most was producing the best record. And if that means bringing in Keith Richards for a take they already know they're not going to use, so be it.
Yeah. Well, our thing is like, if we want you on our recordings, we think you have some. It's kind of a jazz musician's mentality. If you're there, we're gonna write the song, we're gonna arrange it, but like we're not gonna give you such a strict idea of what you're supposed to play over it. You're there because we want your mojo on.
Yeah, it's like do your thing and do your thing as how you would feel your thing would fit us. Just play to us, play like how you think would sound best for the Moon City Masters, but your version. Even when someone like gets hired to play a gig with us, we're not so like learn the freaking song, learn the hits, learn like the feel of everything, but you don't have to learn if we're playing with a few different drummers, or you don't have to learn everything note for note. Play it like
just do a good job.
Just do it. If it just sounds really damn good and you're tasteful and you're doing it, because it's what's the point of it being the same thing? It's it's the same. Sorry. What were you saying?
Well, I was just gonna say that goes right back to something you said earlier about how you would learn parts of songs, and I was gonna ask earlier, and I'm glad I didn't because this brings it up right now. Did that augment how you view your performance style? And hearing that direct correlation from like, yeah, we're not gonna learn at that age. We're not gonna learn these songs like technically note for note perfect, but we're going to do a good enough job that people can't tell, to then being at the point where it's your music and you're telling that same message over to people. I think that's fascinating.
Well, I think it's do you want to?
I'm a professional musician as a compromise as being an artist. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
I'm a professional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a professional. It's two different things.
Yeah.
Being one's a craft and one is art. One is making art. They are related, but
sometimes there's crossover.
But because some people make their own songs and get paid to.
Like we hired this guy Andres to play on our last record on this record that we're.
And he's our first call drummer right now.
Yeah, and we told him to be him. And so I feel like he's an artist on that in that regard. It's not just a craft, but when you're
but like I'm playing with all these Broadway musicians in this 90s band. I'm covering. That's me doing a job. I love it, but it's just me doing it. It's a job. This is like, so what attracted me to music was creating stuff, not replicating other people's stuff.
Same.
And I learned things here and there, and you learn parts of it because you want to get some mojo. Like I love this. I love how I would learn like 30 seconds of someone's guitar solo. I wouldn't learn the whole guitar solo.
Oh.
You know, because you want to, you know, making my own stuff was always the thing that attracted me about it. It wasn't trying to be someone else. You know, you got to learn it because you got to learn vocabulary. You got to learn, and it's good. But it wasn't, you know, that's what I'm attracted to. So when we get someone to play with us, you know, we want them to have a personality, and them to we're there because we think it's going to enhance what we do. And also, and with live, you know, it has to sound like the songs, but like it has to be tight, it has to be well rehearsed. But we also, like, we're huge Rush fans, but what makes us different than a progressive rock band is we like jamming, we like improvising. If someone's just going to play something note for note like the studio live, yeah, after like 1 or 2, 3 times, it's cool to see it, but like, then once you've heard every song you want to hear, what's the point of seeing them live
I
again?
saw the Offspring do that when they played Smash, and I left early. I was so disappointed. It was
just like the same thing.
it was just like listening to the CD, and I was like, I don't need this. Meantime, the next night, Wu-Tang Clan came out and did 36 Chambers, and they went off, and it was one of the coolest shows I've seen, you know, to this day. But yeah, the Offspring, a band that I listened to a ton when I was a kid, they note for note, like it was on the album, and I understand that that's what they were there to do, but it felt hollow, you know.
It kind of defeats the purpose of like live music to me. You know, like it's cool maybe the first time you see a band, but at a certain point, it's like, oh my god, it sounds like the record. Then why aren't you just home listening to the record? Or like, what's the point of like somebody? Or what's different than you're at a party and someone just playing the album? You know, if you just want to like, I get it. There's a feeling that it's hard to explain that, so it's not quite the same. But improvisation is a big element for me.
It's part of the improvisation, and it's also part of, I mean, it's your personality. It's who you two are, and the energy that you guys bring to the stage. Like, it's the combination of those two things. So obviously, great musicianship, but you know, I mean, as a comedian, it's, you know, it's just you and a microphone stand, and if you're lucky, there's a stool. Like, you better be persuasive, and that is a huge factor in it. You know, your guys' stage presence is massive. You know, it doesn't matter if it's 3 people on a stage or 4. No matter how big the stage is, you guys fill it up, and I think that should not be understated.
Appreciate that.
And it's it's funny, you're like those bands you were mentioning, like Boston and all that. You know, we love, like, especially with our singing style is very much in that classic rock style. Like, it's so, but there's so much other. We're right now, and we're kind of evolving. Not even kind of. We're 100% evolving. We changed producers, and there's a, like, the more technical, funkier side of us, I think, was something that would come out live, but never really was heard in the studio to the degree we wanted. And I think this music we're doing, I know it. This music that we recorded now, it's a lot more like what we want, how we imagined this, just how always wanted this to sound like.
Yeah, it's a lot more prog rocky. It's going a lot more into the funk.
Some fusion element to it.
Yeah, and still the same vocal style. You know, that's what we wanted to keep, you know, but like we felt like I am no longer playing a P bass with flats. I am playing a jazz bass with rounds with some distortion and a chorus, and you know, going like Geddy Lee, Marcus Miller mode, kind of both of those.
Some humor to it. We have a couple instrumentals on this album we recorded.
Yeah, you know, we kind of like, I think that like when we first formed the band, we just really wanted to be ourselves, and at that point we were really kind of experiencing like a rediscovery of all the 70s rock that we really loved as kids, and kind of always felt like we were told that we can't be that. We can't, like, I don't know if like, if you're in your, like, there was a time where if they could make a distinction, if you could be traced back to 80s rock in any way, even even the 70s, they would try to call you hair metal. It was like toxic, and I felt like we went through a lot of like internalized shame of that, where eventually we were just like, you know, fuck this. Let's just be ourselves.
I will
And
say that is the path of the evolution of an artist as opposed to a musician. I
yeah,
would never. I mean, I consider myself an artist. Yes, I host this podcast, but I've been a comedian for 19 years,
yeah.
and
That's
at
part of
my
being a comedian, is being a podcaster.
well, my core is writing. I write jokes, I write parodies, I write plays, I write scripts, I write all sorts of things, and I'm a storyteller at heart. And the reason Secondhand Talent came into being is that I was looking for a platform for the stories of my friends, for stories like these, and I couldn't find it. And, again, I don't call myself a podcaster. It's just another aspect of evolution as an artist and finding another outlet and way to, do something that I'm really passionate about. And I'm extraordinarily grateful for everybody who's joined on this ride.
Hell yeah. Going back to it though, it's like we kind of reached a point where uh we kind of we kind of reached a point with this band though where we felt like, we loved we really love like what we've done, except maybe like 2 songs or so. But we kind of felt like we'd kind of like been like creatively a little stagnant. There's been parts of like like who we are that I don't really feel like
Have ever gotten to come out.
yeah, part of that was like, just maybe a little bit of a clash of like who we were working with. And I kind of felt like there was no room for like the technical side of it was always like felt like that was trying to be restrained, trying to highlight just the vocals and just this. But like we kind of, and also I think we kind of realized at a certain point there's an element of our music where I feel like feel like we've played it safe a little bit in some regards, and we just kind of wanted to like, fuck it, let's just like go, let's just embrace every element of what we like in this shit. Let's rip the band-aid off, be completely unrestrained, and let's just
Fuck
make
the
an album.
haters, I'ma do me.
I
I think
personally,
it's just you also got to learn how to be yourself. Like
yeah, part of it is you build the confidence to be yourself a little bit, and you have to learn a little bit how to do it. I don't, we were always, not that we weren't ourselves, but we didn't let who we are fully out in that music. So I'm really, in a way, it feels like we're about to put out our first release again, and it's
Well,
pretty cool.
I
having
really think this. I really think this is like a new beginning. Like you gotta like, and it's like it sounds like us, but like in the scheme of things, no one's heard of us. So I'm like, it's a new band, but it's just us. But it's just a more full representation of what Jordan and Talor are about.
I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. I probably am not, but we've recently been getting into this band, Amel and the Sniffers. And to me, they're a new band, but they've been out for a little while and a completely different type of music.
it's
But
a
we've been
great fucking band name.
Yeah,
dude, they're freaking awesome.
yeah, and it's when you're like, I just feel like this is just our new producer Kevin, who we just were in Toronto a few weeks ago. We made an album with him. It's just he loves progressive rock and fusion, and he hears our background and we relate a lot on that. So he was just encouraging us to get more complex forms, cooler parts, really just trying to make us go expand more when you hear something. He just really brought the best out of us.
Okay, I think I know the best way to put it. I feel like for a long time in our band, we've been playing like we're studio musicians hired to play on our record a little bit. I'm showing up with the P bass with flats,
playing the right part,
and now our attitude is fuck that. I'm not being paid to play on this record. This is my record, and I'm going to play bass like all of the obnoxious ways that I like to play in my bedroom.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna play like how the 15-year-old me would have wanted to play on something.
Would have dreamed to play.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna get fired from my own band. Like
And-
I'll bring out the P bass and flats for you. Hey, if you want to play with me, if you like it, I'll bring it for your gig.
We do need to talk.
Oh
And
yeah.
It is time.
I'm being fired on
It's
air.
it's time for your quarterly review.
And I really wanted him to like, hey, how about instead of like, I need this guitar for this thing, let's just like make a sound here.
It just feels like there's finally like a cohesive sound to the band.
Well, being able to bifurcate yourselves and understand the position and responsibilities of being a studio musician and a live musician, just having that sensibility and understanding and perspicacity is so important to be able to acknowledge internally the difference, and then to be able to put that into action, I think speaks volumes about your evolution. And also, I think putting the term masters in your band name, I think it just continually gives yourselves something to aspire to. That like,
I
hey,
like that. I like
like
that.
if you're, Jerry Garcia said, right, his job is to shed light, not to master. And it's always the aspiration to continue to shed light until we can become the master. And I know we're running out of time for this week's episode. Jordan, Taylor, any final words you want to leave us with?
You know what? I'm just gonna say I like that. Look, our band name surprisingly didn't have that much meaning, but I love that you just kind of created some meaning there. I love, and it's just been a pleasure to talk to you, buddy. It's just been a pleasure to talk to you, and it's great to
Same.
talk about life, talk about music, and thank you all for listening. You have any words, Taylor? You have anything profound?
I love you, Avrami, and
You too, cuz.
it's great to do. It's great to do this, and everyone, if you come to a Moon City Masters show, buy a shirt so I could take an Uber back to my apartment.
Please support local music. Buying merch helps so much more than you know. And if you're on the East Coast, guys, go see the Moon City Masters or wherever they happen to be around the world at the time. Jordan, Taylor, the Moon City Masters, thank you so much for joining me. This has been Steiner with another episode.
We love you all. Thank you.
Bye.
Love you too. We'll see you next Wednesday with another episode of Secondhand Talent. And that is a podcast. We are